What's up guys, Andre here, and today I'd like to recreate the Mac App Store using Tailwind CSS, Electron, and Vue. I recently upgraded to Mac OS Mojave, and its best feature in my opinion is the addition of dark mode. Developers definitely love their dark UI. I feel like an easy way to get praise from developers for your product is to add a dark mode. The App Store was one of the apps that was totally redesigned with this new dark mode aesthetic. So here it is on my screen over here. As you can see, it looks pretty awesome with this new dark UI. And behind it, I have my app that I created using Tailwind, Vue, and Electron. And it looks pretty good. It looks pretty close to the original. Obviously, the content has changed here since I've done it, but I've tried to recreate it as closely as possible. And after a first pass, it looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and recreate this in Vue, Tailwind, and Electron. Okay, so I have a Vue CLI 3 project scaffolded out here, and I've also added Vuex and Vue Router. The only thing I've done is added the image assets for all the icons and all the images that we're going to need later on. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is change this into an Electron app. So we're going to use this plugin over here. If you want a more detailed video on using Vue with Electron, check out the video I did where we build an entire app. But I'll still take you through the installation process here. It's pretty easy actually. Just do this. So let's stop this, do that. Okay, that's done. Now all we have to do is npm run electron serve, and our Vue app should be an Electron app now. So let's give that a try. And there it is. It opens up DevTools by default. We can remove this in a second, but our Vue app is now an Electron app, and we can get started. So the first thing I want to do is install Tailwind CSS because we're going to be making use of Tailwind. So let's go here, let's go into the installation, and let's install it. So first thing is npm install. Okay, so the next thing is to add a Tailwind config file. So let's go ahead and do that. Add it, let's call it Tailwind.js. Okay. Next is to make a CSS entry point for Tailwind. Let's grab all this. And let's go into, let's put in the assets folder. Let's call it main CSS. Just paste everything in here. And that should do. And now in our main app component, we can just require that. I'm going to remove all of these styles because we're going to be using Tailwind here. So let me just remove this. And there's several ways to import Tailwind in Vue. I'm just going to do it this way. If you want more ways, check out my video on Vue and Tailwind. I'm just going to do main CSS. Okay. Now let's configure post CSS so Tailwind works. So if you see here, there is a post CSS rc.js file, and I'm just going to paste in the config necessary, and it's just requiring in Tailwind with the config file and auto prefixer. All right, let's check if our Electron app is still running. Okay, it's still running, but we removed the styles, and it looks like it's using the Tailwind default styles now. So let's just confirm that. And let's put right here for guide and recipes. I believe this is in the hello world component. So let's just do class equals bg blue. There you go. So we have Tailwind working. Cool. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just change the window size. So background.js is the main process that Electron runs on, And this is responsible for things like managing the window. So right here, we can change this. Let's set it to 1200 by 750 is what I was working with the app that I built already. So this is going to restart Electron. Okay, so that's a bigger window. Let's also remove the automatic opening of DevTools. So we can just comment this line out. And what else? So if you look at the App Store, there's actually no title bar. So we can remove that as well if you want in Electron. And to do that, you can do title bar style. And there's one called hidden inset, which is the one that I want. So let's save that. And you can see the title bar is gone now. Cool. Another thing, if you open the App Store, is it's slightly transparent. At least this side is. So if you look closely, you can kind of see the green, the Vue logo green behind here. It's not a big deal, but if you want to do that, just do win.set opacity, and you can set it to something close to 1. I'm going to set it to 0.98, so it's just very slightly opaque. And you probably can't see it, but it is slightly opaque here. Okay, so when we removed the title bar, we also lost the ability to drag the window. So to get that back, let me just open up some Electron docs here. Let's look for dragging here. Here, draggable region. If we just add this to wherever we want to be draggable, then the ability to drag will come back. So let's grab this and let's go into our app view. And let's just put an inline style right here. And now the entire app should be draggable. If it's not, then yeah, we might have to restart Electron. So let me just restart Electron here. Okay, now it's draggable. Cool. But we also have to make sure that for stuff that we want non-draggable, like buttons, then we have to add this CSS property. So I'm going to do that, but I'll change button to a class. Something like clickable. We probably won't use it here, but if we need to respond to buttons, we might need this. So I'm going to open main CSS. It's right here. And I'll just add it right here. And let's change it to clickable. Okay, now let's just focus on getting the structure in place. So if we look at our App Store, you can see a sidebar on the left and the content on the right. And as you click on these, this changes. So this would be similar to here. If you picture clicking the links here, this would be the sidebar. And then this is the section where the content changes. So let's go ahead and structure our app like that. Let's go into app view. And this is essentially where our sidebar will go. But we won't use this now. We'll make our own for now. So let's go ahead and start with the sidebar. So let's just get something in here. So I'm just going to do something that's that wide. Just make it blue or something. Text white. And yeah, let's just put some content in here. This is the sidebar. Oh yes, and obviously the whole thing is going to be, let me just go back to the App Store. This whole thing is going to be flex. And this will be, the sidebar will be one flex item and the content will be the other flex item. So let's set this encapsulating div to flex. And this would be one flex item, the sidebar, and the router view is where the content goes, and that component is in here, and that will be the other flex item. So let's see if this is getting us somewhere. Okay, so that looks pretty decent. This is where the sidebar goes, and this is where the content goes. Let's just fix this so it spans the entire screen. So if you just do min h screen, that should be a 100 viewport height, and that will get us where we want. Cool. And let me open the App Store, and let's just make this a similar size. Okay. So this is a bit wide for me. I want it to look somewhat close to this. So I've already done it. As you saw, I already done it, and I have to make a custom width here. So 56, and let's go to our Tailwind config. Let's go to width, and let's set that. Not border width, I want just normal widths. Okay, here. So 56 would be in between here, and 56 divided by 16, sorry, divided by 4, I mean, is 14. So 56, 14 rems. Save that, save this, and see how that looks. And that looks pretty good. It's pretty close to this now. It's not exact, but it's good enough for me. And let's go ahead and change the colors now. I'm going to change this blue to, it's not exact like the App Store, but I'm just going to use Tailwind's colors here. And I will just do BG gray darkest. Okay. And for this stuff, this is actually in here in the home view, and it's importing this hello world component, which I don't want. And it's importing this logo, which I don't want. Let's remove this. And let's just add some stuff here. I'm going to remove home. Let's set it to BG black. And let's add some text in here. Let's also set text white here, actually. And let's just add lots of text, 2,000 words of text, just so I can scroll. Okay, so this is taking up more content, more of a width that I want to. So let's change that to Flex 1, I think. Let's change Flex 1 here, and that should maintain the proportions. Okay, cool. If you want to be really nitpicky, which I did for a bit, there's a black border here, and it's actually black. So we can add that if we like. So back to our app view. Right here, we can do border R, and I'm going to make a custom class here called border black, which is actually black, just so I don't have to define another custom CSS property in the Tailwind config. So let's go to our main CSS, and let's do border black. Let's do border color black. Okay. Okay, so you probably can't see that, but there is a black border on there now. Cool. Okay, so the reason I added all this text was to show you that this scrolls with this entire section here, which if you look at the App Store, this section scrolls by itself. So that's the behavior I want. I want this scroll bar, this sidebar, sorry, to be fixed. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to app. Let's change this to fixed, and let's see what we get. Okay, so it is fixed now, but we got to change the height as well. So let's change the minimum height to screen as well. Okay, so that is good. Now it's scrolling by itself, but the text is behind the fixed sidebar, so we have to push this over to the left. So we can just give this section a margin left of whatever this size was, and I think it was 56 or something. So go to home, let's just give it margin left of 56. And does that push that over? It did not. Oh, I have to add it to the Tailwind config as well. So 56, 14 rems. So I got to go to margins right here. And let's add that in there. And that should do it. Okay, so there you see it pushed over. Cool. Okay, so one more small thing. As you see, the scroll bar is the default color here. And if you look at the App Store, it is a darker color here. So we can actually change that. You just have to use WebKit's presets for styling the scroll bar. So let me just open up a web page here. If you want to look into more detail on how to do that, there is an article on CSS tricks that shows you how to style the different scroll bar components. But I'm just going to paste in some code here and paste it into just our main CSS here. And let's just paste it in. And it just changes the background color, adds a slight border to the left, sets the width, and sets a border radius. So let's see if this works. So there you go. You saw the scroll bar change, and now it is this nice dark color. Cool. Okay, so the first thing I want to work on is the sidebar. So if you take a look at the App Store, there's actually an animation here. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to style it like it's in this state. So let's go ahead and do that. So back to our app view. Let me just rearrange this. So apps first, then home, then main. Don't need this, don't need this, don't need this. Okay. So I'm going to make a sidebar component here and dump all of this in it. So let's call it sidebar. And let's make a new component called sidebar.view. Put a template in here. Paste that in. Save that. Let's import the sidebar in here. So just do a script, components, sidebar, and let's also import that. Import sidebar from /components sidebar. We can put the Vue extension if you like. Cool. Okay, see if this still works. Okay, still works. But now we have a dedicated sidebar component. Okay. So first thing I want to do is just give it some padding on the top. So let's go here, PT 8. Okay. And now let's just make a new container. Let's call it search container. And let's also center it. Give it some padding and make it relative because we need to make the search icon absolute in a second. Let's put the input in here. Let's make the placeholder search. Okay, see how it looks. Okay, looks decent. Class equals. So yeah, if you're wondering why I know where the classes are supposed to go, that's because I already did this before and I'm just referring to my other monitor. I always say this every time I do a Tailwind video. But the reality is you add one thing, you check it, you tweak it, and that's how you do CSS basically. P2, PL8. All right, let's see how this looks. Okay, looking good. Let's give it a border. Border gray, dark, and let's make it rounded. Okay, it looks pretty good. Actually, one thing I forgot to do is to change the font, the default font. So, or did I do that? I did not. So if you look at the App Store, this is just the default font stack. So all we have to do is go to our app and add font sans here, and this should change the font. And there you go, now it's the default font. Okay, now let's add the search icon. So back to sidebar. So this is going to be the container for the SVG. It's going to be absolute. We're going to pin it to the top. And then we're going to give it some padding, some text gray light, okay. And I'm just going to paste in the SVG here. So just paste that in and see how it looks. And what did I do wrong here? Why is it up there? That's because this div is supposed to go within this search container. So let's do that. Let's indent this. Okay, this should do it. And there you go. Cool. All right, now let's work on the rest of the sidebar. So this list of menu items here. So back to our code. This should be indented. Okay. So this is going to be called sidebar. I like to name my divs. It just makes it easier when I'm scrolling through a large document, even though I'm not defining any CSS for it. Sidebar icon. So I have sidebar icons, which is the container for everything. And I have sidebar icon, which I will have several of them. So if you look at the App Store, it's just going to be Flexbox with 2 flex items, the icon, and then the label. So let's go ahead and do that. So it's going to be flex, items center, some padding, the text is going to be gray. Change it to a pointer. And let's change it to, this one in particular is going to be the selected one, or the active state. And we want the same treatment for the hover state. So the SVG will go in here. Oops. Let me just put a placeholder for the SVG. SVG here. And then the label goes here. So the first one is discover. Let's see how that looks. So that looks pretty good. So the pointer works. Okay, so let's just grab the SVG. So these SVGs are just taken from Font Awesome because it's the closest I could find. And there is a repo for SVGs for Font Awesome, which I'll show you here if you want to take a look at it. Just right here. And it has all the SVGs for Font Awesome 4. I'm not using 5 here. I'm using the old version of Font Awesome. So I just grabbed these and made use of them in my project. So see how that looks. Okay, looks pretty good. And we basically have to do the same for the rest of the items. So let me just paste one in to show you. So you're just going to grab everything from sidebar icon. So I believe it's this, yep. Just grab that. and just paste it in. And you'd remove this because this one isn't the active state, but we do want the hover state. And that looks pretty good. Hover works. And yeah, let me just fast forward and I will put the rest of the menu items in here. Okay, so there are all the menu items and the icons, and it's looking pretty good. Now let's move on to the content section. So, sorry, where's the App Store? Actually, no, I think I forgot. Yeah, if you look here, there is a menu item for your login. So I'm just going to paste that in. The way I did it was I absolutely positioned it and just pinned it to the bottom. So I'm sure there's another way to do it using Flexbox, but I just did it this way. So let's just do that. So I'm going to scroll down. These are just all the icons. And after this, I have another one here. And it's basically the same thing. I'm still using this sidebar icon. All of this is the same, except I'm absolutely pinning it and pinning it to the bottom. So let's see how that looks. And it looks pretty good. Cool. Okay, now let's get to the content. So the hero was different for when I did it, and I have some artwork for that, so we'll just make use of that. So let's go ahead and just start this hero section over here. So let's go to home. Let's put it here. And let's call it the Discover banner, because that's what I have it called in my other project, Discover banner. And we're actually gonna have some CSS in here. And if you excuse me, my VS Code is being slow. Okay. And let's just put the text in here. So this stuff here, featured app, the title, and the description. So this one's uppercase. Let's give it a margin bottom of 4. The basics. And next, let's use an H1 font, normal, MB4, and say create personal projects. And the last one is going to be a paragraph. Let's give it a width of 64. And let's change leading normal. Text gray lighter. And with these apps, creativity has no boundaries. All right, let's see how this looks. Okay, so let's put the background image in there. So I can put it in line here, but like I said, I'm going to put it in the CSS file. So let's make a new one let me just move this up for you guys. Discover banner background. It's going to be, like I said, I already have images in here. It's going to be discover1.jpg. And background repeat. No repeat. Background size cover. These two actually have utilities in Tailwind, but since I'm already here, I'm just going to put it in here. And I also need this custom min height property, which is not in Tailwind, and I don't want to put it in the Tailwind config. So, okay, let's see if this shows the image. And there you go, there's the image. So let's just clean this up a bit so it moves down. So back to our home. Just add a few more classes here. Max width full, text white, padding, rounded bottom. That's for this. If you see this, the corners are slightly rounded, and I just want it on the bottom, not on the top. Actually, I want that to be large. I want some padding on the top and some margin on the bottom. And let's see how that looks. Okay, it looks pretty good. And I never set some padding on this content section here. Let's go ahead and do that. Say 10. And there you go. Now we have some padding. Okay, what is next? Let's take a look at the App Store. Okay, so next it's these two sections. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to use Flexbox to put them side by side, and they're obviously half each. So let's do that first. So .flex, and let's put a margin on it, 10. And each flex item is going to be half. Half. And to give it the gap, I'm going to give this a margin right, and I'll give the other one a margin left. Let's make it BG gray darkest. Let's make the corners round. And this is also going to be a flex container. Let's give it some padding. And let's see how this looks. Let's just duplicate this, and let's put a margin left on this one. Okay. Cool, looks pretty good. So yeah, again, we're going to use Flexbox. One item here and one item here. So this first item is going to be where the text goes. And the second item is going to be where the image goes. So I'm going to make this right aligned. Let's put the image in here first. And I believe it's in Assets, Discover 2.jpg. And Alt this image. And see if that goes in there. Okay, cool. And let's give it a class. Let's make it a circle. So rounded, full. And let's give it a specific width. I think I have another custom width here. So I have to define this in Tailwind. Let's go widths. Okay, so width 40. Yeah, so it's 10 rems. Set that to 10. Save that. See how that looks. Okay, cool. So let's put some content in the first flex item. So here, let's go and say the first one is, let's look at the App Store. So there's 3 sections here. This, get started, edit photos fast with extensions, and then the description. So my content is different from this because it changed. So I'm just going to use what I have in my other project here. Uppercase, text gray, light. It's small. Let's give it a margin. Featured app. And because I don't feel like typing it, I am going to paste the other 2 in. So just in the H1 with some styles on the text, and same with the paragraph tag. So let's see how that looks. And it looks good, but this is too close to this. So let's see if I can just do something like this. Flex 1. Will that do anything? Okay, that looks better. And for this section, the current App Store these two are the same, but when I was doing it, it was a bit different. But I'm just going to paste it in here. So for the other section, for this section, let's paste it in, and let's see what I have. Yeah, so this is how it looked in the other one. So this first part's the same. Actually, no, it's not the same. This is not Flexbox. It's just items that go in a column. So, and I just made this banner up. Okay, let's see what's next. So this section is next. New apps and games we love. So let's go ahead and do that. So first, there is a horizontal rule here before that. Let's add that first. So right here, I'm just going to do border B, border gray, darker, and a margin bottom of 10. Cool. And let's see how that looks. Awesome. So that's our horizontal rule. Okay, let's take a look at the App Store. So we need this title. So let's start with that. Actually, there's this see all on the right too. So we have to use Flexbox and justify content space between. So let's do that. Okay, so let's make a new section for apps and games we love. And let's make that flex. No, that's just the container. So this one's going to be the flex container and justify between. And we have a H2, font normal, margin bottom 8. And let's say apps and games we love right now. And for the next item, just make an anchor tag. My VS Code is extremely slow, and I tried restarting it a few times, but it is not working. I mean, it's not making it faster, so. No underline. Underline. And see all. Cool. Okay, cool. So now we have to work on this. So again, Flexbox. Flexbox is your friend. Learn it well, and you can pretty much create any layout. So this is one flex item on the left, and this one is going to be the other flex item, including the underline. So let's go ahead and do that. So here, let's go ahead and get started. It's going to be half again because it's in twos. 1, 2. The App Store actually is responsive, and if you increase it, it increases the number of columns. I'm not going to do that because that's too much work. So I'm just going to stick to twos, halves. So let's say width of 1/2. And I want it, actually no, we have to make the flex container first. Flex. And I want it to be, I want it to wrap. And let's give some margin. And this is where the flex item goes. Width 1/2. And this is flex as well. Okay. And now we are in this flex container. So we want this and this as the flex items. Cool. So the first one's the image. You can just put the image here directly, but I like to put them in containers. And set the width. 24 should be a default. Should be in the default Tailwind config. Let's add the image, assets. Again, I have all the icons already. PNG, alt is icon. And this next flex item is going to be list all the information, including this line over here. So this line right here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 things. I'm just going to do that. So this is going to be the container for it. And this is where the spacing goes. PL6, flex 1, some padding. And these are all where the text goes. So this is the name. So Quark Express 2018 Pro. This is the description. B6. Okay. Love, print, live, digital. So this next one is the price. So I'm not sure why I have this in a container. I probably have a good reason for it, so I'm just gonna follow my old self. Okay. And I have a span here. Class of BG. This is the price bill. Text blue, rounded full, PX3, PY1, small, and it's bold. And this is the price, like I said, $399.99. See if that works. And yeah, it looks pretty good. And let me just add the border bottom. So pretty much this we want to add right underneath here. Okay. And yeah, it looks pretty good. So if we add this 4 times, since I did flex wrap, that should have 4 items. So let me just paste it in 4 times, and then I will I'll paste the dynamic data in. So these 4, if I take this, paste it 4 times, 2, 3, 4, if I'm not mistaken, that should work. And it does, cool. So yeah, let me just fast forward and I will paste in the correct data. So I've pasted everything in. I also added the next section, this top page section here. The layout is almost the same as this. It's just a bit different in the prices over here, except underneath. Again, just more Flexbox. If you're interested, just look at the code to see how I did that. And I just ended it here. There's more content in the App Store, but they're all pretty much the same, and it'll just take a bit more time to do. But yeah, our app is looking pretty good and pretty close to the original App Store. So yeah, the plan here is to make this interactive using Vue, using the App Store as a guideline. For example, there's a lot of transitions and animations that happen when you click on stuff like that. Or there's also a carousel here for some of the stuff. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do that yet because that takes a long time, but we'll see. So yeah, I hope you had fun building out this Mac OS Mojave App Store with me, and I hope you learned something new. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Okay, thanks. Bye.